Hello YouTube, my name is Sarah, aka DarthCat6, and I've decided to start vlogging. This is something I've been thinking about doing for a while to tell people about my life with celiac disease, and really, I guess, decided that it'd be something that I was interested in after a couple nights ago I accidentally, well, not accidentally, but just stumbled upon a vlog by Robert 1967 Canada, and I realized, if I can do that. So anyway, what do I want out of this? Mainly to connect with other people dealing with celiac disease. Also, not just people living with the disease, but just also to socialize and expand my social circle outside of here in Little Rock, Arkansas. Yeah, so those are my main goals, and so today I'm not really going to talk about the food so much, and just tell you a little bit about myself and what I want with this blog. Yeah, so about myself first. Like I said, my name is Sarah. I'm 25 years old. As I just mentioned, I live in Little Rock, Arkansas. I'm a graduate student, currently working on my PhD in molecular biology. I do prostate and breast cancer research. I'm a fourth-year student, so I've finished my classes, so now it's just all lab work until I finish, and since I'm a fourth-year student, I'm hoping to only have maybe about another year left before I graduate, which would be nice. It's not set in stone, but that would be great. So I was born and raised here in Little Rock, as you may be able to tell from my accent. Let's see, what else? Also with this channel, it probably won't be just about me and celiac disease, but also just life in general. And as you may have seen already, if you go and look at the videos I've uploaded, also some cat videos as well. I love cats. And I decided I needed a hobby besides just comic books and video games. So, like I said, one thing I want to do maybe is connect with other people living with this issue. It's probably much more common than most people realize. I think the last report I read on the incidence is about 1 in 100 people have it. So chances are you either know someone personally or know someone who knows someone with this issue. And so I keep mentioning that word, celiac disease. What is it? Celiac disease is an autoimmune disease, and it's one of the only autoimmune diseases that's known to have an external trigger, in this case gluten, which is a primary protein found in wheat, barley, rye, and wheat, barley, and rye. There's some others, but they're not really common. I think spelt is one, but I'll have to check on that. Anyway, so what does that mean for me? What's it like living with it? Well, I can't even begin to act like it's anything like having to deal with, say, kidney failure, or have to live on dialysis, or those people that have to live with heart pumps, the LVADs. It's nothing as serious as that, fortunately. But it's not really life-threatening, at least not immediately, but it is life-altering in a big way, especially if you're someone like me who always thought about, when it came to eating, it was always about the taste of the food. I was always growing up, and even as an adult, it was always, if it didn't taste good, I wanted nothing to do with it. And so I've kind of had to redo my thinking a little bit, because a lot of the gluten-free products out there, they're getting better, but they're not that palatable sometimes, or if it's not the taste, it's the texture. A lot of gluten-free pastas and stuff, they kind of, if you stir them or start chewing, they kind of just fall apart, and it's kind of, ugh. But I've gotten used to it. So, tell you a little bit about my story with celiac disease. I was diagnosed a little over a year ago now, so I've been living gluten-free for about a year. Actually, what happened was I didn't even I didn't know I was sick. The idea that I would have an autoimmune disease, much less a disease like celiac disease, never entered my mind. And actually what happened was is that my mother, who's had iron deficiency issues all her life, and they kind of, from what I understand, kind of started when she was in her 20s, was pestering me to get my iron checked. And so finally one day when I had a regular physical, I did, and they came back and said, you're anemic, your ferritin, which is an iron-binding protein in the blood, is low, and there really was no reason why it should be. I wasn't on my time of month, and there's really no reason. I eat fairly healthy. I eat a lot of meat. There's no reason why I should be deficient. And so my doctor was actually very diligent on this. Instead of just doing like some doctors probably would and just prescribing me iron supplements, she actually referred me to a hematologist who who ran a battery of tests, and one of the panels that they run a lot of times when they're doing a generalized panel and maybe figure out why someone's lab results are abnormal was the celiac panel. And so I went to see the hematologist. They drew probably 3 or 4 vials of blood. It wasn't that bad. And the only things that came back abnormal besides my iron were the antibodies that they screened for celiac disease. And she said, okay, well, chances are now, because you're within that range for what we see with people with this disease, and so, but to make an official diagnosis, you have to have a biopsy. And what that means is an endoscopy. And so for those of you who don't know, it's where they put you to sleep, they stick a camera down your throat and basically go down into your stomach, into your small intestine, and take little biopsies of your small intestine to look at the structure, the microscopic structure of your intestines. So that Friday, actually, after being referred to the gastroenterologist for the endoscopy, I had my endoscopy. It actually wasn't that bad. They just put me to sleep, and then when I woke up, I felt great, actually. And so they told me they didn't see any abnormalities that were readily visible with the scope, but the pathology report came back, and I had immune cell infiltration with villus atrophy. And what that means is that not only was I getting an immune response, but also I was having enough of a response I was starting to have damage. And so, yes, I have full-blown celiac disease. So, ever since getting that diagnosis, I have been living gluten-free. It's been a bumpy road, and at times a very depressing road, when you realize that, especially when I first started out, I wasn't aware of many options, and actually, the past year, a lot more options have just simply become available. Like my first week back after getting my diagnosis at school, I was eating salad with dressing that I was bringing myself that's certified gluten-free, because actually, believe it or not, a lot of dressing isn't gluten-free. That's something to be very careful of. And so here I am. I've been living with this diet for a year now. I feel better, although sometimes it's hard to tell because, again, I am a grad student, so things get pretty stressful for me at times. And so sometimes it's hard to tell, am I experiencing celiac symptoms or am I just stressing out? Actually, this is really bugging me seeing the reflection of my glasses, so I'm going to take them off. And so that was the first few months was a really rough road. Fortunately, here in Little Rock, there's a new bakery that actually opened up the year before my diagnosis called Dempsey's Bakery. That is a gluten-free bakery. And they have some very wonderful tasting cookies, cakes, sandwiches, etc. So that was nice discovering that. But over time, I don't really, it's just something I learned that's just, you have to think about it every day because you have to think about what you're eating. If you don't, you're going to get exposed and you're going to get sick, and it's not fun. What happens when you get sick? For me, if I get a large amount of exposure, usually I know it within about 20 minutes or so. I first get kind of an upset stomach, not so much like I feel like I'm going to throw up, but I get this crushing fatigue. This isn't like, oh, I didn't sleep well enough last night. This is, I don't want to move. And if I get just a little bit of an exposure, then usually I don't know about it until the next day, and I don't want to go into graphic detail about that. You can probably figure out what I'm talking about. And the only downside to that, too, is that usually by the time I have that symptom, it's too late, really, usually for me to figure out what it was that caused it. There are some products out there that are advertised to alleviate symptoms of gluten exposure, or at least help reduce the effects of it. I do take this sometimes, this thing called Glutenese. I found it at the Drug Emporium here, and it's not unfortunately it's not a free pass to eat gluten. What it is it's an enzyme cocktail that's supposed to help digest any gluten that may have made it into whatever you're eating. And I generally pop one of those if I'm going out to eat and I'm not entirely sure, that there's not 100% certainty that there won't be cross-contamination of some sort. And it's just a little extra safeguard that I use. And I also will take one if I'm starting to get sick and I know I've been exposed. It kind of shortens the illness, I guess you can call it that, and hopefully also prevents some intestinal damage from occurring. This is starting to we're at 11 minutes now. I'm trying not to ramble on, keep this too long. But, so far that's kind of what my life has been like, dealing with this issue, and I'm hoping through this blog to maybe connect with other people that are living with it, or people who know people, and also just people in general. I might even not all my videos, I don't want them to all be about this disease, and I don't want it sure, it defines a lot of who I am these days, but I don't want it to be, this channel to be about just that. So maybe a little slice of, I'll find a way to sneak in a little slice of life there later. Maybe sometime when I have some interesting experiments to show you, I might take you on a little tour of the lab as well, but we'll just have to see about that. So, like, subscribe, comment, maybe share your story of if you've been living with this disease. I would love to hear it, because I really haven't met very many people besides myself and my mother, who was diagnosed after my diagnosis, by the way, because it is inherited genetically. So yeah, that's it for now. So thanks for watching.